4th of July. So the next project we'll be doing together is called a firework salt painting. If you've never worked with salt before, when it comes to art, this will be a new experience for you. It just kind of adds a different kind of texture to watercolor if you've never used it before in that way. So it's a watercolor, but it's also, I don't know if you can tell from the camera, but it actually sticks out a little bit off of your paper. So it's really kind of fun, and it gives you a really cool, almost tie-dye look to it. So let's get started with what you will need in order to do this. For lesson 4, you are going to need black or white paper. For the demo today, I am actually going to be demonstrating in black, and the only reason I'm choosing black is because when I think of fireworks, I think of them generally at nighttime. So I'm actually going with a black background, but you're more than welcome to use a white sheet of paper if you choose to do that. So white or black paper. You can use construction paper for this, it would work just fine. You are going to need table salt. This cheap table salt that you can get, I think these are about 50 cents at the store. You do not want to use colored salt, so if your parents have like that pink salt or real coarse salt, you do not want to use that. You want to use just this fine, regular old table salt. You're also going to need watercolors of some sort. I'm going to be using 2 different kinds. These are the ones that I happen to have myself, but I'll also be kind of playing around with these, and these are classroom watercolors, so you've probably played with these at one time or another. They're just regular colors. Okay. You can also get those at the store, and they cost maybe $2 or $3. Sometimes even the Dollar Tree will have them. You're going to need some sort of cup for water for your paints. You're going to need a paintbrush of some sort. Probably a small paintbrush, not too large, because you're going to be doing some detail work. In fact, a lot of times these watercolors will actually come with a paintbrush. That one will work perfectly fine. You are going to need some glue, school glue, liquid glue. Glue stick will not work for this, so you are going to need liquid glue, something that actually has a tip to it that you can squeeze the glue out. If you choose to, you can actually use the hair dryer. We are going to use that today. And if you choose, you can actually use chalk to outline your composition before you actually start to glue, but that is up to you as well. Okay, so let's get started. I did not grab chalk, but that's okay, because basically what I can explain to you with the chalk is that, and this is basically kind of an outline, you see how some of those little salts coming down. This is basically the same thing that we're doing, but you're seeing it in just the glue and the salt. So that kind of gives you an idea before the watercolor comes in. So the first step of actually doing that is taking your paper, and we are going to start by creating our fireworks using our glue. Now, if you had chalk and it makes you feel more comfortable, some people like to outline first. So if you had your chalk, you could actually outline your fireworks. Fireworks, you can tell though that fireworks are fairly easy. They're almost just kind of like little sprouts. It looks like little sprouts of water or spouts of water that pop up. There's not a whole lot to them. There's usually a base or a stem to them, and then just kind of like a Y out. You can see that. But again, no right or wrong answer. You can even do just kind of crisscross lines, kind of like a pom-pom. That could work for fireworks as well. So there's no right or wrong answer to that. So I'll keep this here for your reference if you want to take a look at that. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start now, and I want my glue to be completely open. You can do it 2 ways. You can do it like this and then add reflection on the bottom, but I'm going to do it simple for you. So I'm going to start from the bottom, and I'm just going to start making kind of that Y shape with my glue. And fireworks are fun because they're so colorful and all of them are so different. So you can see it's kind of like a fan shape to it. And if you want, you can go further out, bring it down. Again, there's no real right or wrong answer to that. Some are small. Some don't go up as high in the sky, do they? This will be kind of like a pom-pom one or a starburst, right? Okay. You can also, if you want, you can just kind of assume that some are kind of sparking off like they do. I'm just kind of playing it around. You can tell that this one is already different than that one because there isn't a right or a wrong. If it's easier for you, you can start with an X. And you have an X over an X. I think some of them kind of go off on their own, don't they? I think it's amazing when you see the ones that actually have, like, they make shapes, like Mickey Mouse ears or a flag or a smiley face. Have you ever seen those? Those are really kind of neat. So you can fill up your paper as high as you choose. I'm going to kind of fork mine off. Reminds me a lot like a plant, almost. If you think about plants and how they branch off and so here I am. I'm just taking my time. I'm basically drawing with glue is what I'm doing. I'm using the glue as my base drawing. And I bet you can guess what comes next, right? What comes next is that you're actually going to sprinkle, if you've used glitter before, I'm sure you have. Do one more starburst right over here. So that's where I'm going to stop. That's quite a bit of fireworks there. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do, just like glitter, if you've used glitter before, you're going to sprinkle all over your sheet with salt. Instead of glitter, you're going to use salt. And I'm using this tray. I didn't mention the tray and supplies, but if you have some sort of piece of paper you can put underneath of it, or a tray, or a baking sheet, or something to collect that salt, I wouldn't suggest reusing it because it is coming in contact with the glue. But just to collect it so it doesn't create such a mess, I'm going to go over it, and I am actually going to cover my entire drawing with this table salt. What's nice is most of these containers have that little spout so that you can pour it directly where you drew. Okay, so I think I've got a good, and I'm going to just kind of shake it and drop it just like I would glitter. And now I have salt over top of my glue, just like this one, okay? Now, this is where I am going to opt to use my blow dryer right now because it does work a little bit better if the glue is just a little bit dry. So you can either from home, let it sit and dry for a few minutes. It doesn't have to dry completely, but dry for a few minutes. Or you can take your blow dryer and give it an extra little push of heat. So I'm going to do that here for just a minute here. You can watch me as I do that. You don't want to push directly onto it, like you don't want to get too close, but you do want to get close enough that you can kind of dry off some of that glue. Concentrating on the areas that have the biggest amount of glue right now. So like those veined areas in the middle where those starbursts kind of come together, that's a good place for you to actually, you know, dry it a little bit more. So I'm going to give it just one more little hit here. Okay, so what I'm going to do from here is our last step and the most fun, because this is where the magic comes out with the color. I'm going to move this out of my way. This is the paper that I had in case I chose to do white. And you know, white would look really pretty. I'm doing the night scene, but white would actually look really pretty with all the colors that you'll use with your watercolor. So I've got my different pans of watercolor. They all work just as good. The only difference between the two of these, I'll just kind of show you the difference. You can see how this one is shiny and how these ones are not. This is kind of like more of what they call a matte. These means that these are semi-moist, which means they have a little bit of moisture to them already, and these do not. So it doesn't matter which ones you use. I'm going to go ahead and get my brush. I put the towels, let me grab those. Sometimes when you switch colors, it's kind of nice to have paper towel between them. So now when it comes to color, that's all about personal preference and what you choose to do. So when you're doing watercolors, if you've not done them before, the more water you use, the less pigment you'll get. It'll be a lighter color. And the less water you use, the more concentrated that the watercolor will be. For these, you want to make sure that you have some water in the brush, that it's not too dry. However, you don't want them so wet that it sops up all of the salt, right? You don't want to put too much in there. So if you can see this, you can actually see how the salt, it almost reminds me of like, kind of goes along with the summer theme. It kind of reminds me of a snow cone. So you know how when they put the dye or the coloring, the flavor, when you choose your flavor into your snow cone, you almost see how it kind of permeates through the ice. That's what this reminds me of, which even makes me think more of summer, really. So I'm kind of switching colors up here, but I don't have to even do much as far as I'm just kind of putting a little pigment just on top of the salt, and it goes through. It pushes through the salt. That color pushes through the salt, and it gives us kind of a tie-dye look almost. So I'm just barely tapping the top with the color that I have in there, adding a little bit more water to whatever I choose to do, and it just kind of bleeds through like that. And it even, just like tie-dye, if you see in the blue here, you get it close enough, it actually mixes a little bit. You might get some green tones in there because we know that yellow and blue make green, right? We all know that. I know you guys are art experts out there. If you're taking these art sessions, I'm sure that this is something that you enjoy to do. Let's try another one over here. I'll show you how if you start in the middle of a starburst here. Look at that. It's kind of fun. Put maybe some blue with that green. Sometimes even just leaving some of that white I think is really pretty. And you will pick up a little bit of salt if your piece is not completely dry. That's okay. You just don't want to stay in one area too long. So if I have a wet brush, I don't want to just keep rubbing a color into there because it will take out the salt and it will start breaking apart your glue. So that's what you don't want to do. So just a little tap of color. It'll permeate through the salt there. If it picks some up, that's okay. And move on to some purple. Purple looks real pretty. So you can just see how I'm kind of moving back from different colors. As you add water and you let it kind of soak through the salt, it's going to give you different designs. Let's try one of these. I haven't tried one of these dry watercolor cakes. Let's try a pink one and see how that does. Oh, that's pretty. It takes a lot more water to activate these dry cakes than it does the wet ones. And if you get some on your paper, it's no big deal. So if you get some color, you see I got a little bit of color on there, it's no big deal. It's going to dry. If it bothers you, you can always take a clean, wet brush and just kind of soak up the color and it'll dry. So there's lots of options for color. There's lots of options for design. If you're not a fan of fireworks, guess what? You can do something different. You can do the same project using that glue to draw something out as you're drawing, put salt over your design, and watercolor it just the same if you choose not to do fireworks. Maybe you have a different theme that you like for the summer. Maybe you want to draw somewhere that you went on vacation this summer, or maybe you want to do your name. That's the fun part of art. You can make it yours. You can make it personal. So if this isn't your cup of tea, if you're not really into doing the fireworks thing, maybe you have another idea that this would go really good with, try it out. Do it. There's no right or wrong way to do it. I'm going to try a light blue here. So once you get your colors in here, you are going to want it to sit and dry completely overnight, or at least for a few hours if you make it at the beginning of the day. And at the very end, what you're going to end up with is something like this. The colors are going to be real vibrant, and they're going to dry so that you can actually put it upright if you choose to hang it on the wall for the holiday, or give it to somebody for the holiday. And there's so many different color choices. Maybe you don't want it to be rainbow and multicolor, maybe you just want it to be, red, white, and blue. We started with just the red and the blue against that white salt. If you want to do red, white, and blue, that would look really good too. So thank you for joining me for lesson number 4. I'm excited to wrap up this lesson with you and to do lesson number 5 next. So come back, we're going to do tie-dye resist. It's really cool. I think you're going to enjoy it.